Hello and welcome to this Össur webinar. My name's Giles Leeming. I'm an orthotist from Össur UK. And what we're going to do is just talk you through the SmartMeasure system and how you measure for custom braces. Before we start, I've got a couple of colleagues and a couple of cameras that I need to talk you through. This is my colleague Pete. He's the leg model for this evening. We also have a table camera, which allows us to actually show you various different features that are on the brace. So you can see we've got good views of a variety of different braces, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and we can go through those in detail. Moving on, we also have a dynamic camera. So this one's manned by Izzy, so say hello. So you may see Izzy in and out of cameras from time to time, and this allows us to show you specific things in detail. From there, we can also change to SmartMeasure, so we can actually broadcast from this as well. So I can actually go through what I'm doing and the stages that we go through in order to do SmartMeasure. So first of all, I'm going to go through a quick presentation and just talk you through a few of the steps and a few of the parts involved in here. So before we start, a bit of an introduction, and then I'm just going to show you a quick video that goes through the process that we go through in order to manufacture our custom braces. So in terms of our custom braces, we've got a variety of these, whether it's the unloader one, the CTI, or the rebound ACL or PCL. So we'll go through those, and that's a video taken at our manufacturing facility in Mexico. We'll also go through SmartMeasure in terms of the app itself, how you work your way through it, and then a live demonstration of how we do it and the steps involved in that. So just start off with a video, and we'll just go through that initially.
There are a number of knee braces on the market. But here at Össur, we make truly custom bracing. And truly custom is truly exceptional. CTI Truly Custom Ligament Knee Braces, as well as Unloader 1 and Unloader Truly Custom Osteoarthritis Knee Braces, are hand sculpted to fit the anatomy of a single, unique individual like a glove. You're looking for better patient outcomes, and that's what we can give you. It all begins with the data. You can capture it using one of our traditional systems or using our SmartMeasure app. Either way, our ultimate goal is to translate the raw data you provide into an accurate 3D foam surrogate of the patient's leg. While the exact manufacturing process varies a bit by product, the end result is always the same: a truly custom brace. In the case of CTI, the raw carbon fiber is precisely cut using CNC technology. The hinge arms are then fine-tuned, and the carbon fiber is hand-shaped to fit the 3D leg model. Once the key components are in place, the carbon fiber is cured under pressure. The brace frame is then refined until final using a multi-stage process that is equal parts art and science. While the manufacturing process is slightly different for Unloader and Unloader 1, the fundamentals are the same. Most importantly, the hinge arms and cuffs are contoured to follow the exact shape of the leg model, providing a truly custom fit. Once the brace frame is complete, it's ready for paint. Össur's in-house artists offer custom paint options that are second to none. I often tell people, the only limit is your imagination. The brace comes to life in final assembly. In the case of CTI, the 4-bar linkage system that creates our signature AccuTrack hinge is activated, creating a smooth motion that closely resembles the natural movement of the knee. Straps are tailored to each patient and liners are custom made for each frame. Our truly custom technologies have been tested, studied, and clinically proven to help prevent ligament re-injury, promote functional ligament healing, and provide osteoarthritis pain relief. And we demonstrate our confidence in their superior quality by offering a lifetime warranty on the frame and hinge. Even after 30 years on the job, I never get tired of hearing how one of our braces has helped someone walk without pain or enabled them to continue participating in the activities they enjoy. It reminds me that we make a positive difference in real people's lives. I'm John Kendrick, Manager of Technical Sales Support at Össur, and I make truly custom bracing.
Okay, so that gives you a little bit of a snapshot of some of the stages and some of the different ways in which we make some of our custom braces, whether that's the CTI or the unloader. So we're going to look at the SmartMeasure app itself. So this is available on both iPhone and iPad. And it's a very intuitive, efficient and accurate way to measure for custom braces. So it means that we can actually sort of process all these orders very quickly through the actual SmartMeasure system. So it's a very efficient way of handling these custom measurements. In terms of the SmartMeasure app, it's available on App Store, and if you just click on sign up, you will need to add a UKB number, which you can get from customer care, and that effectively is our way of identifying which clinic that you're from. So it's very easy for you to get that. Just give customer care a call and ask for your UKB. In terms of the tools that you need, on the left we have a constant force caliper, and this is a calibrated caliper with a spring-loaded function in it, which basically means that we get repeatable medial lateral joint width measurements. We have our phone, we have a tape measure, and we have a marker pen as well. So if you need any of these other than the iPhone, by all means just give us a call and we can send those through to you as part of a small kit. What I'm going to do is just quickly pop over to the table just to talk you through some of the different braces that we have. So first of all, starting with the CTI Custom, you can see that this is a carbon fiber ligament brace. This one obviously has a very unusual paint job on this. And then I also have a standard OTS brace to show you some of the differences between the two. This one, the custom is is a left, and then this one is then a right. But you can see that with the custom brace, it allows us to increase the amount of carbon fiber that we have in the frame. So you can also see that these lateral arms are completely rigid. The tibial section here is also rigid because we can actually contour it to fit exactly to the shape of the patient's anatomy. Whereas on the OTS version, we have conformable cuffs, which can be particularly useful as a patient goes through rehabilitation. So generally, we'd recommend the custom in a patient where their muscle bulk is stabilized and their anatomy remains the same. Also with the custom unloader, using a custom means that we can actually completely conform the hinge to fit the shape very exactly as you saw in the video. Equally, the shells can be adjusted and contoured to fit the patient's anatomy. You can also select it in black or in grey for both the straps and the pads. The frames can also be in any of the 14 standard colors is included in the SmartMeasure app. And we also have the rebound PCL. So you have a patient that requires dynamic PCL support in that initial rehab stage, and they're outside of the normal sizing. We do actually have a custom version to fit more unusual patient sizes and shapes. Okay, so I'm going to go over to Pete now, and we're just going to go through a few of the different sections here, and in terms of what we're going to do, and all the different measurements and markings that we need to make on the patient. So we have our constant force caliper. We also have our tape measure and a marker pen. So I'm just going to take these marks, make these marks on Pete's leg. So I'm just going to roll this up a touch there. And starting off, first of all, we're wanting to start effectively with mid-patella. So I'm palpating the patella and I'm marking mid-patella. From there, we actually want to go 7.5 centimeters or 3 inches above mid-patella, and 15 centimeters or 3 inches above mid-patella. And we can then mark these sections out here with a cross. Okay, we would then do exactly the same but below. So 7.5 centimeters, which effectively is normally the tibial tuberosity, so just there, and then 15 centimeters below. And I've marked these with just a dot initially because ideally I want these marks to be over the top of the tibial crest. So I'm just palpating this and marking this over that prominence there. Okay, that's fine. And we're then wanting to mark the line of the tibial crest as we're going down here. So we'll just do this with a dotted line. Okay, and this is really good for highlighting the varus or valgus angulation of the leg itself. And now what we need to do is just mark the joint line so that we can actually mark that and position where we will need our caliper to go. So I'm going to ask Pete to take a seat. Okay, and this makes it a lot easier to palpate down the condyle and feel for that medial joint line. So if you just straighten your leg for me, Pete, I can then mark that in the correct position there like that. Exactly the same on the lateral side. I'm following down that condyle, straightening the leg, and I can then mark that lateral joint line there like that. Now, if we get Pete to stand up again, what's important with these lines is it actually acts as a landmark for me to place the caliper in position. So looking a little bit more at the caliper itself, this is spring loaded, and you can see that we have a measurement here that allows you to read the medial lateral joint width of the knee. It's really important that when we do this, we've got this in line with the knee axis, so we don't want the caliper twisted off to one side or the other. It's in line with the knee, and we have the bottom section here in line with this joint line. So you can see that the bottom of the arm is just resting on that joint line there. So that's why we've taken this measurement, and we can then take a reading off the top of the caliper in order to get the correct measurement. So in Pete's case, we've got a measurement of 10.7. It is important that you allow this to settle as you apply it. So you'll notice as we place it into position, it will just take a couple of seconds, and this will actually settle into the correct measurement. Okay, and from here we would actually take circumferential measures, and I'll come back to that in a second because I'm just going to change over to the SmartMeasure app. So I've already downloaded this. And set it up exactly as I would need. Just going to change over to that. Bear with me 1 second. Okay, perfect. So we're logged into the SmartMeasure system, and you can see that we've actually got this front page here. So we can actually set up a new order. So I'm clicking on the top left, clicking on new order, and then we're putting in the patient's information. So it's Peter Gill. And we then select whether it's a left, right, or a bilateral brace. Now, if I click on left, you can see it brings up an extra tab at the top. Again, for right, it changes that to right. If I click on both, it comes up with both left and right brace. So you can change between those tabs depending on what you would need. In this case, we'll go with bilateral. You can put in who it's prescribed by, the telephone number, which is the number either for the patient or for yourself. Pete is male. He's from a high activity level. His height in meters is 1.83 because he's about 6 foot. His weight is 80 kilograms, and his age is 30. Okay, and we then have all the patient information that we would need. If you choose to change these for patient identification numbers or whatever, that's not a problem at all. We can accommodate those. The patient's name or identification number will actually be printed on the inside of the brace. So in the case of the CTI, this is stamped on the femoral frame. In the case of the unloader, it's underneath the liner on the femoral section. So moving over to the left brace, we have this tab, and we can select, in this case, it's showing ligament braces. You can change over to the OA tab, which is on the right, and I'll show you in a second. So in this case, we're going to go with the CTI Custom. Working down that menu on the left, you can see that we have Vapor, Standard, and Pro Sport. And what this relates to is the amount of layers of carbon fiber that form the buildup of the frame. So Vapor is the minimal amount for the most lightweight, low profile design. Standard is our normal sort of offering, and that's in case of you have activities where there's likely to be impact to the brace itself. We then have Pro Sport, so this doesn't control the patient anymore, any more than the other two models. It simply relates to the fact that the brace has more carbon fiber in it, so it can withstand more impact. So Pete is actually a surfer, so he has quite a lot of contact with his board, so we're going to go for a standard setup. Working down the menu, we can then go on to the color options. Now, one of the more important things for the patient, but you can see all of these 14 colors are actually available completely standard with the brace. So in this case, we're going to select a yellow one for Pete, and I didn't show this, but you can select whether you want it in a glossy finish or a matte finish. So again, we'll go with yellow. We can then select a variety of modifications on the brace. Because it's made completely from scratch for this individual, we can change many of the attributes associated with the brace. So the menu on the left, you can see internally screwed D-rings, externally screwed D-rings, so you can swap those. That's effectively a field serviceable design. You can also have internally or externally riveted D-rings. So as standard in the UK, they will arrive with internally riveted D-rings. We can shorten the tibial component by this is showing in inches, so half an inch, or an inch and a half. This can be particularly useful in, for example, skiers or patients that are wearing boots for sports activities, for example. We can change the extension stops on the left. So as standard, it comes with a black stop, which is about 5 degrees. We can add thigh liners, and in the case of a CTI, it doesn't come as standard with a thigh liner. They're not normally needed. You can change the liners for the calf as well. Shorten the femoral component, and then there's a variety of anatomically related or condition related options on the right hand side. So super shorts for patients 5'3" and under. If that height measurement is lower than 5'3", we will automatically scale it up or scale it down to a super short. There's a PCL option, and effectively this adds a calf pad and a strap just above the knee in order to provide a higher level of PCL control. We have a variety of other things such as ACL cables, a hyperextension strap which adds a strap over the popliteal region, ski boot attachment which isn't often used. That's a way of suspending the brace, sort of a higher level of suspension if someone's wearing a boot. And we then have the ability to change the thigh and calf subshells, or indeed add a flexion stop kit. So there was a question from Dean saying he already has the app, but this is a new version. So this is the current one that I got from the App Store, so it may just be that it needs updating. We do periodic updates on these, so I just double check that. If it still remains the same, by all means just give us a call and we can talk you through that. Special conditions, these are anatomical differences or things that we want to highlight before we want to manufacture the brace. So prominent vastus medialis, prominent vastus lateralis, hockey quads, and this relates to patients with a very high level of muscle bulk over the quads. Prominent tibialis anterior, which can change the shaping of the tibial shell. A prominent fibula head, pretty much says it as it is. So if the patient has a prominent fibula head on the lateral side, we can adjust it accordingly to fit that. A rounded tibial member basically changes the profile of the tibial section according to the anatomy of the patient, so it makes that more rounded. And also Osgood slatches, so in that case it allows a cutout to allow for the prominence associated with that condition. So in Pete's case, his anatomy is relatively normal, so there's nothing we particularly need to add, but I will show you how we can highlight things on there in a second. We also have a variety of accessories to go with these: undersleeves, motocross kits, different anti-migration system wraps should you need them. So you can just tick these off as we go. So for example, an AMS wrap, I can add that in very easily. There's also a note section. So if you ever have anything that you want to highlight, it can be useful for us to have a diagnosis. So in Pete's case, He's had an ACL reconstruction. So we can actually add that in there. It can be useful to give us as much information, just means we can double check the details as we go along. So that's absolutely fine. So going on to the measurements now. So as I mentioned, as I showed you before, we're taking a circumference 15 centimeters above mid-patella. So I'm just passing the tape measure round level with that, and that gives me a circumference of 51 centimeters. We're then going down to the 7.5 above, and this gives us a measurement of 42. Passing down to the one 7.5 below, this gives us a measurement of 35. And then the one at the bottom, this gives us a measurement of 39.5. So this is in centimeters. So if you add in something that the value is too high, it will actually be highlighted in red. So you just need to pop that in and change that. And as I mentioned before, we took that ML measurement of Pete's leg, and it was 10.7. That's absolutely fine. So we've populated all those, and we then need to go on to taking our picture. So in the case of this, I'm clicking on anterior photo, and we click on this, and you can see that we now have this grid formation on screen. Now you can see that when this is level, it will actually go green. So when that value at the top is lower than 5, that will actually go green, just to say that it's in the right position. What's really important is that we align this level with the axis of the knee. You wouldn't normally ask the patient to do this, but Pete, if you could do a squat, and you'll notice that the knee comes directly out at the camera. What we're wanting to avoid is where we're taking a measurement off center, so we wouldn't get a true view of the knee. So if you can just pull your short leg up, that would be great, Pete. So that top cross, we're lining up level with the 7.5 measurement. That's absolutely fine. And the middle line level with the medial lateral joint line. And we take that photo. So you can see we've got it in position. It double checks it, so you can make sure that it's correct. And once we've got it correct, you can see it populates that little thumbnail at the top. If you've got it taken and it's not sort of green, it's not a level with mid-patella, that will actually be red, so it will highlight that to you. What we then do, and if I go to the camera, if we then get Pete to turn to the right, we then bring his trouser leg up. We're then doing exactly the same from the lateral side and taking that picture there. You do sometimes need to be aware of backgrounds, just to make sure that there's not a significant sort of patterned background in the background. So in this case, we've just got a white one, which is absolutely fine. You also need to double check that the other leg isn't sort of interfering with the contours on there, because sometimes the other leg can change the position of that. So we've set that up. We've got all our measurements in there. So once we've done that, you can see that that left brace is then ticked off and ready to go. So once we've set that up, we can sort that out. We then, I'm moving on to the other leg, and I'm just going to quickly go through some of the options that we have similarly with the Unloader One Custom. So starting at the top, we've got both a standard and a short. So again, if your patient is smaller than 5'3", you can spec a short brace. And you then set up the orientation. So in the case of the unloader, the hinge should always be on the affected side. So most commonly medial. We can also set up the color, whether you want that, any of those 14 colors, as I mentioned before, for the frame. You can have the straps and the pads in black or in gray. It's completely up to you. I won't go through that with this one. And we can also change a few different options within here. So smart dosing is the standard one, the more sort of up-to-date version, but you can specify ratchet if you would want that. We can also change the extension stops, add a flexion stop kit if we need it, rarely used, and change the thigh or the calf liners dependent on your needs. So as standard, it would come with a Sensor calf liner and a doe skin thigh liner. We can also add suspension straps and anti-migration system wrap. So I'm not going to change any of those because that's how we want that one as standard. With regards to special conditions, it's only really a prominent fibula head that we would need to be aware of with that. The rest of them can normally be picked up on the unloader pretty easily. A variety of accessories very similar to the CTI. But it makes it very easy to set up. So what I'm going to do now is just change that back to a left brace to get rid of that right. We can then go over to the purchase order information. So if you have an order number that you choose to use, so I'm just going to populate that first of all, just so that we have a number in there. So you can add your purchase order number in there, and you then set up your shipping address. So in this case, I've already added Össur UK there, so that's would be where my brace would be both shipped to, and the billing address would be. And you can see that we can work our way through this now, but we've actually set all these up and they're ticked across the top. So once we've actually done this, we just click send, and it will actually successfully submit this order. So from here, it then goes to customer care in Manchester, and we can then process that order as needed very quickly. So as standard, if we change it back to the main camera, as standard, the unloader and the CTI can generally come in 10 days. We can also get the rebound PCL a little bit quicker if needed. So there's a very small lead time on those, so we can get them very quickly should you need to. Custom brace is really good to allow for unusual sizes and shapes. So differences such as very large patients, very petite patients, or differences in terms of anatomy, whether that's prominences, operational sites, or scars, or that sort of thing. So it does give you a lot of opportunity to get a really good intimate fit to fit your individual. Okay. That kind of concludes the webinar in terms of the SmartMeasure for today. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask those now. We'll hang on for a little bit longer, and you can send any of those through. Alternatively, you can contact us through ukevents@össur.com. And we will send through any information on that. So I'm just going to go back to the presentation, so those information is on there for you. But any further questions, and we will answer those as we go along.